Hello, I'm Lenoir, and today I'm going to be looking at the differences and applications of using Kali Linux in VirtualBox VM versus in a Docker container. All right, so my goals today are to have a working Kali Linux installation on VirtualBox, have a working Kali Linux installation in a Docker container, and to try to identify the differences between VirtualBox VM and Docker container when it comes to applications to cybersecurity. So first off, we're going to start by installing Kali Linux in a VirtualBox environment, and this involves installing the VirtualBox virtual machine first, and then also downloading the Kali Linux ISO, which we are going to use in the boot process by making it the optical drive here in the setup for our Kali Linux VM machine. After that, we're going to run the machine and go through a pretty lengthy installation process where it'll ask about a bunch of region stuff and set up your system so that you can boot into Kali Linux here on the virtual machine. And here is my instance of Kali Linux here on the right, where I have my terminal pulled up, and you can see my user name there. And you'll go through the terminal and you'll upgrade and update Kali Linux in any other applications that you'll need to update or upgrade on your virtual machine before you use it in more of a practical setting for any sort of cybersecurity application needs. Next, we're going to look at installing Kali Linux in a Docker container, which I was doing on Windows. Download the Docker desktop application, which you will then go through the process of installing Docker through bash script and logging in through bash script on your computer and installing Docker so that you can create a container. And in this container, we'll pull the most recent iteration of Kali Linux and install it there using the bash script. And here on the right, you can see a list of tools that I was able to get from the Docker container running Kali Linux to see the list of tools I would be able to use in Kali Linux there in the Docker container on my terminal there. And then, so VM versus container, which is better? There are pros and cons to each. The VM creates an entire system environment, while a container only creates things on the application layer of control protocol layers. The VM takes a lot of storage space to create all of that, all of those layers of application or layers of control. Creating an entire system is much more isolated than a container would be. However, because a container is only really operating on the application layer, it takes up a whole lot less space than a virtual machine. Containers are also more portable for this reason. They take up a lot less space, so they can fit on a lot smaller drive, while virtual machines generally take up a lot more space, exponentially more space, than a container would. However, they are a lot more isolated as a result, having an entire system to themselves where the containers are borrowing assets from the host system. So which one is better? And the answer is they're both useful, each in their own ways. As I said before, a VM is a lot more isolated and you have access to an entire isolated system, while a container would probably be more useful for developing some sort of cybersecurity applications that you could test on an application level and transfer around easier because of their smaller size. Anyways, that's the difference between virtual machines and containers. I hope this was helpful.